Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Political Rumble. Narendra Modi this week has got a third term as India's Prime Minister. This time, however, the pitch conditions have changed. The BJP has fallen short of majority, making it dependent on allies. How does this mandate affect Modi 3.0? That's going to be our focus on the Political Rumble. We'll have guests who've worked with Prime Minister Modi or know him well. Ashok Malik joins us. He was with the government for a long time. Ashok Malik is a partner at the Asia Group. Also joining us is Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay. He's been a biographer of Prime Minister Modi, wrote a book about him even before he became the Prime Minister of the country in that period. Also joining us is Pavan Verma. Pavan Verma is author, diplomat, and was formerly an MP of the JDU, which remember is a key constituent now in this government. And joining us, Sumant C. Raman. He has his unique perspective there from Chennai. He will tell us how he sees Mr. Modi functioning in this 3.0 government. As always, on the Rumble, we will raise all the big questions first. And our first big question on the Rumble is simply this. Can Prime Minister Modi be a coalition builder now? Or has brand Modi taken a big hit? Will Indian politics be more consensus-driven now? Will government-opposition ties get more and more turbulent as time goes on? These are some of the questions that we will raise. We'll also be speaking to special guests, including Nara Lokesh, Pawan Kalyan and others, all of whom now are allies in this government. But first, to you, Ashok Malik, because you have seen Mr. Modi at close quarters in recent years. Can he make the transition from being the leader of a dominant majority party government to now being a coalition government where he will have to work with others? Now when there is a food packet, it may not only include Prime Minister's face, it may also have to have Nitish and, dare I say, Chandrababu Naidu.
Rajiv, thank you for having me. Mr. Modi, like Mr. Naidu and Mr. Nitish Kumar and several other politicians in our polity, is a very senior and experienced person. If he has worked with two single-party majority governments and not with the coalition, it is because he won a mandate for a single-party majority government in 2014 and 2019. Mm-hmm. However, in his party, in international diplomacy, he has worked with diverse coalitions and diverse people. I have no reason to believe he cannot do that in a national government as well, in the government of India. Mm-hmm. There's also the reality that no government in this Lok Sabha is possible without a coalition, and without a coalition built around the BJP, which has 240 seats, a very large number, near a majority, but not quite a majority. Mr. Modi indicated and signaled as much today when in every single reference to the coalition and the government, he called it the NDA coalition, he called it the NDA government. He was emphasizing that he understood the importance of the coalition. He understood this was not a BJP government, this was an NDA government. The imperatives were different, the dynamics were different, and he was alive to that. And obviously the content and substance will also need to be tweaked in that manner.
So you're saying that Mr. Modi will be flexible enough to adjust to the new changed circumstances. Pavan Verma, what's your view? Because there is a picture of your old boss, if I may be allowed to call him that, Nitish Kumar. He almost touched Mr. Modi's feet. That in itself led to considerable speculation. Nitish Babu seems to know which way the wind is blowing. But do you really believe that outside this bonhomie, this is a lasting arrangement, or everyone is simply sussing each other out in these early days?
Thank you, Rajdeep. I think it's early to say, but politics is the art of compulsion. And the versatility of Prime Minister Narendra Modi should never be underestimated. But I can say this fairly definitively, that by experience and by temperament, he has no training to be a coalition leader. The facts are well before you. From 2001 to 2014, he was unchallenged chief minister. In 2014 and 2019, the the BJP on its own had an absolute majority. So the allies were optional accessories. And if you talk to some of them in his heyday when he didn't need them, but it was part of the NDA, many will tell you that NDA meetings were far between and infrequent, often perfunctorily held, and essentially it was the writ of the Prime Minister who had an absolute majority that ran. But it was not only with the allies, in the government also, which will now have ministers from other parties presumably. In the government, he ran the government as a one-man show. Cabinet meetings, anecdotal references tell us, were like a frozen piece where agendas were circulated, but decisions as the Prime Minister wanted were known and endorsed without much discussion and debate, and certainly without a difference, because that was not very well tolerated. Then in the party, Mr. Modi's writ was supreme. I mean, he took decisions. I'm now talking of a coalition government where the BJP within itself had one leader, acknowledged him as one leader, went into the election almost as the BJP invisibilized, and the manifesto was called Modi Ki Guarantee. And he could change chief ministers at will, dismiss entire cabinets, sometimes treat stalwarts with limited accommodation. Lastly, in Parliament, he had a brute majority in the Lok Sabha and a managed majority in the Raj Sabha, so you could push through legislation with a minuscule opposition that could create a ruckus but do little else. And therefore, many bills were passed without adequate discussion. One example is the land reform bill, passed within an hour with a voice vote, and very few bills were being referred to select committees for deeper examination because the BJP could get its legislation passed. Now, all of this will have to change. And
I'll come to the. I've allowed you the
as I
luxury.
said, you cannot underestimate.
I've allowed you the luxury of time to explain what you believe, what has changed between then and now. How he will adapt to it is the question. Sumant Raman, Mr. Modi has been known to surprise even his critics. I remember when he went to Gujarat in 2001, most people said he can't be an effective chief minister. He's never won an election. In 2014, many said he can't be a prime minister. He's only been a chief minister. Do you believe that Mr. Modi will be a consensus builder, or do you believe that Mr. Modi is simply someone who cannot work with others unless he is simply first, not even among equals, but just the dominant figure?
Rajdeep, I think that it is possible, but it's going to need a complete change of character. And I don't know whether such a complete change of character is possible for the Prime Minister. Look, there are two possible ways in which this government could pan out. One, and this is possibly at some stage the more likely option, early on or maybe midway, the BJP feels that they should sort of solidify their presence or their position, boost the majority, and try to split a few parties and try to bring more MPs on board, which is something which would be the natural instinct of a party or of a prime minister who has been completely dominant. He's been completely unquestioned, both in the BJP and in the government over the last 10 years. So it's going to take a great deal of restraint to prevent him or prevent the BJP as it stands today from trying to shore up the numbers by getting quote-unquote, support.
Who would they get? A Shiv Sena, Uddhav, a DMK? Could a DMK also go with them a year down the line?
The DMK, if they did go with them, then they would be committing political harakiri because of 2026 when the assembly elections, their entire campaign has been to position themselves as anti-BJP. So if they go and join the government or support the BJP from outside, they have an election to fight, and I don't think they will do it. It makes very little sense. But there are enough others. we already spoke about how Mr. Fadnavis has offered to resign. There is a move to reach out to Mr. Uddhav Thackeray again. There are options, and there are, many small constituents in the India bloc who could potentially, be wooed.
Right.
So I think that what you have to understand is the natural tendency would be to do this, and the point is it's not restricted only to the members of the India bloc. It could also be restricted, it could also include your allies. The BJP has been known to sort of break the parties with whom it's in alliance with. The classical example, of course, there could be reasons to debate it as to what they did with the Shiv Sena, but over the years, clearly there is not going to be a Lakshman Rekha which says you are my ally and therefore I will not poach you. So if that tendency can be curtailed, and if Mr. Modi says let's actually run a consensus government, or at least lay off on all the contentious issues, and let us see if we can get a consensus together and take people along. Now this is a mammoth if, because it's completely against his nature. So I don't know whether he can do it. But honestly, if I see this government lasting 5 years, I probably believe that's the only way. And I don't know whether
you're saying that for the government to last 5 years, he has to get more allies on board, including breaking possibly some of his existing allies. Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay.
I'm not saying he has to do that, Rajdeep. I'm saying that would be his tendency, or his immediate urge would be to do that, and that may lead to the downfall of the government.
Okay, Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, someone who's tracked Modi, done a biography of him. Do you believe Narendra Modi is that kind of political figure who simply adapts to the circumstances? He will be the dominant leader when he has a majority, when he's a consensual, when he's heading a coalition. You can see he's attached himself to Chandrababu Naidu for the last 72 hours. Every picture he wants Mr. Naidu also in the frame.
First of all, Rajdeep, thank you very much for having me on your program. It would be incorrect to say that Mr. Modi does not have it in him to work with other people. But we also have to keep in track that while he's been a pragmatist on several issues, he has never been a team player when it came to 23 years of either as Chief Minister or as Prime Minister. Even within the party, he's never really been able to work with a team. It has essentially been the tallest leader and then the others far below him in the party hierarchy. The same thing within what we also call the Sangh Parivar, which is a fairly elaborate network where there are certain power hierarchies, and Mr. Modi has in the past been known to upset the traditionally laid out hierarchies. He did so as the Chief Minister when he did not get along with the Gujarat region head of the RSS, and he's had problems even within the RSS.
He had sidelined more famously, if I recall.
By and large,
Nilanjan, if I recall most, sorry to interrupt, but if I recall more famously, sidelined the likes of VHP leader Praveen Togadia, sidelined all his rivals in Gujarat, but that was then. This is a new Narendra Modi.
No. Yes, this is a new Narendra Modi, but this Narendra Modi remains as dominating as he was in Gujarat. So the big question is that why is he so dominant? Now let me try to, whatever little bit I've tried to study the person and also interacted with him while working on the biography, and previously also as a journalist spending time chatting with him. What comes out is that he has always liked the spotlight on him and has not actually ever believed to share the spotlight with others. While working on the book, one of his teachers who I happened to meet told me that, as a child he liked theatre, he liked to be on stage. But he said, there was a trait in Narendra that he did not like to play in a theatre, in a play, if he did not have the lead role. He always enjoyed the lead role, and that is what possibly shaped the early character of Modi, and it has actually been seen right through his political career. He had problems, he did quite well in the Gujarat leg of the Somnath Yatra of Mr. Advani. Then he was given, on the basis of that performance, the national convenership of Ekta Yatra. Did quite well, 91-92, hoisting the flag at Srinagar along with Dr. Joshi, went back to Gujarat. Would have possibly expected a hero's welcome. But the state leaders there wanted to sideline him, did not want him to become bigger than what they were, wanted to have the same kind of collegial functioning which has been a hallmark of the BJP right from the time. He was sidelined for a couple of years. He spent those years in a few things, trying to consolidate himself. In 95, when the BJP came to power with a fairly comfortable majority, almost two-third majority, or maybe just a bit slightly more than that, with Keshubhai Patel as the chief minister, he once again wanted the dominant role, more dominant than even the chief minister. That ran into problems, as a result of which the BJP moved him out of Gujarat. He was brought to Delhi and then posted at Chandigarh, where he was asked to tackle many states, including Punjab and Himachal Pradesh, where he did quite well to be finally able to establish a BJP government in a fairly stable manner. Shanta Kumar's government had not been very stable initially, and then after the Babri Masjid demolition, it was dismissed. So Mr. Modi has always had the state. So what I see is that there will be a personality tussle going on within him. Instinctively, he is somebody who likes to dominate over others, who likes to issue commands and would like his views to be accepted, and would not really be liking it if others give him suggestions. But the pragmatist in him would tell him that this is not the way you can be comfortable in the position that you are. You cannot continue as Prime Minister if you are behaving the way that you did since 2014 to 24. So we will have to see how this tussle within Mr. Modi plays out in the next couple of months. We will get an indication, and it will then determine that whether he gets the full term or not.
Instinctively, he's someone who wants to dominate, but also is a pragmatist. There's that element of, some would say, Gujarati pragmatism that has always existed, that has taken Gujarati community far and wide and enabled them to dominate across the world. But Ashok Malik, before I come to you, I want to just play what I heard from Nara Lokesh. He's the son of Chandrababu Naidu. Many believe he's the face of the TDP for the future. And I asked him that. How will this relationship work? TDP now a crucial ally in this Mili-Juli Sarkar, as we are calling it. Listen in to what Nara Lokesh had to say. Let's look ahead, Nara Lokesh, both to Andhra Pradesh and nationally. And I want to start nationally because there is now a belief that not only is your father Chandrababu Naidu set to become Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, he could well be the kingmaker of Delhi, because the BJP needs his and Nitish Kumar's support to ensure a stable government. Is Chandrababu Naidu seeing that role for himself as a kingmaker, where he will set conditions under which this NDA government works, or are you giving unconditional support to Prime Minister Modi in any future government?
No, I'd like people to look at the track record of Telugudesam Party. In the past, when Telugudesam Party extended its support to United Front or NDA, it's been unconditional. When we walked into NDA just before elections, it was unconditional. We will continue to support NDA unconditionally. Definitely, we look forward to developing our state. I believe strong states results in strong nation. We believe in the vision of Narendra Modi ji. We believe in the governance of Narendra Modi ji. We look forward to building a strong state. Narendra Modi ji has a vision of a $5 trillion economy. I would like to see Andhra Pradesh to be a $1 trillion economy. For us to achieve this, we look forward to the support of the central government. We look forward to working with the Honorable Prime Minister the way Vajpayee ji worked with Mr. Naidu. We look forward to that kind of a symbiotic relationship. And our support is going to be unconditional. We believe India needs a stable government, and we will.
So there is no question, therefore, there is no question, Nara Lokesh, so there is no question of demanding specific ministries. Unconditional support is what Nara Lokesh said there. Ashok Malik, but this is, remember, he mentioned the Vajpayee era and the Modi era. Vajpayee, by his instinct, was a consensus builder. Mr. Modi, as Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay explained, by his nature is a domineering figure. Would you believe that the pragmatic Modi will score over the instinctive domineering figure? Will he perhaps eventually not be willing to accept Chandrababu Naidu in any form dictating terms to him?
Rajdeep, any senior politician at that level is a domineering figure who wants the lead role. Even Vajpayee did. Vajpayee could be extremely domineering. So to suggest that Narendra Modi is the only person who has ever held the prime ministerial office anywhere in the world who wants the lead role and everyone else wants a secondary role really befuddles me. Second, please understand, Narendra Modi is the most popular politician in this country. He's won 240 seats after 10 years in power. He's led his coalition to a majority. Plus, please understand the dynamics of the political dynamics of a government, any government in India, even a coalition government. The prime minister of the day and the office of the prime minister has enormous authority. You think in the NDA government of the Vajpayee years, if Mr. Vajpayee wanted something, it didn't happen, irrespective of which ministry was involved, which coalition partner was involved. Even in the UPA years, somebody like Dr. Manmohan Singh, a very good man, but not the political leader of even his own party, could push his way and get the nuclear deal if he wanted it. That is the authority of the prime minister. And here you're dealing with not just the authority of a prime minister, you're dealing with a leader as dexterous, popular and astute as Narendra Modi.
So you're saying that Chandrababu Naidu and the Nitish Kumars recognize that reality. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
that eventually
absolutely.
the Prime Minister is by far first among equals?
Somebody on the panel spoke about this government surviving. You think anybody else, if you pull down this government, you'll have another election. You think anyone wants that? Forget Mr. Modi. You think Mr. Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar want that? Don't they recognize that? Of course they do. They're far smarter than we are.
You know, that's an interesting point that you're making there, that none of the others want, you're saying, are in a position to form a government, and the allies perhaps, including a Chandrababu Naidu, perhaps doesn't even want that situation, even though there are reports that he could be offered the prime ministership by the India alliance. But I just want to play what Mallikarjun Kharge said, because that's interesting. What did the opposition have to say about whether they would make any attempt at any stage to bring down this government? Listen to what Mallikarjun Kharge said.
The India bloc will continue to fight against the fascist rule of the BJP led by Modi. We will take appropriate steps at the appropriate time to realize the people's desire not to be ruled by the BJP's government, and this is our decision, and we all together agreed on these points.
We will make a move at an appropriate time. What's your sense, Pawan Verma? Do you believe that the opposition at any stage is in any position to bring down this government? Do you believe, therefore, the fact that because there's a party with 240 seats versus the largest party on the other side with 99, it is a huge advantage to the Prime Minister, and all this talk of an unstable government is simply chatter?
I never predict politics, but I tend to agree with that assessment, Rajdeep, because the opposition, while for democracy it has been good that it has come up in stronger numbers, today it is not yet shaped into a cohesive, organizational and united entity. And I don't believe it has yet produced a charismatic enough face as against the manifest, even though declining popularity of Prime Minister Modi. So if they make a premature attempt to somehow destabilize this government, I think they will not only fail at this moment, but have egg on their face. I tend to agree with what Sumant Raman said. You see, Prime Minister Modi may reinvent himself, but he will do so by the insurance of having secured numbers to run the government in spite of being in a minority. There are some 18 MPs floating around who can be recruited. Then there are those in other parties who can be wooed. So I think
But what
Mr.
is to
Modi
but
and
what
Mr.
is to
Shah
stop?
will take-
No, you're saying he could woo these parties, but what is to stop Mr. Verma? Say Maharashtra goes to the polls in October, Haryana goes to the polls in October, then in December you have Jharkhand. All three states where the opposition has an even chance as it stands today. Some would in fact say they have an upper hand. What happens if they win all these three?
No, I think that is an important, if not a milestone, but an important development in the evolving stability of the government. If in the next 3 state assembly elections, the BJP does not do well or loses all 3, I think it will reflect on Mr. Modi's own ability to be able to carry all the coalition members together, and in this respect I also include all sections of the larger BJP and Sangh Parivar. So these are imponderables that lie ahead, and in all these 3 states it is a battle which is cannot be predicted to be in BJP's favor as of now. So this is why the BJP will work towards an insurance policy, even if they are consensual in terms of the allies they have now, to be able to be close enough to a majority to manage the stability of the government.
So
I
you're
also
effectively
agree with Ashok Malik that
Yeah, go ahead.
nobody wants an election right now.
No, sure, nobody wants an election
Nobody
right now.
wants an
No,
election
that's
right
taken for a given. But there are those, Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, particularly within the RSS, even within the BJP, who feel over the years they've been sidelined. You heard JP Nadda in an interview to Indian Express during the campaign saying we don't need the RSS. And that apparently led to some disquiet at some stage within a section of the RSS. And they believe they need to also recapture space. There are other leaders, contenders, we won't mention some of the names, but there are enough people with conflicting political ambitions who may well say, you've had your 10 years, now it's time, maybe next year you turn 75. Let's look at other options. Is that possible, or do you believe the RSS also will fall in line? Nilanjan.
Did you ask me?
Yes.
Rajdeep?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Whenever we are talking about the coalition that Mr. Modi is now, he has to run, comparisons obviously get drawn with Mr. Vajpayee. But actually, if we go back to 1998 when the coalition was formed, the National Democratic Alliance was constituted after the elections of 1998, and before the government actually took oath, virtually by that time, a national agenda of governance was ready. This time the coalition was not at all expected. In fact, since 2018, ever since Chandrababu Naidu and the Telugu Desam left the NDA, it doesn't have yet a convener. So obviously Mr. Modi through all the last 10 years did not pay any, it did not really consider the government to be an NDA government. All his statements used to be Modi Sarkar, Modi's government. So the big questions are that when in the national agenda of governance of Mr. Vajpayee, the most important headline point was that the BJP drops its 3 contentious points: Ram Mandir, 370, Article 370 and Uniform Civil Code. These were not part of the agenda of the Vajpayee government. There are a large number of Hindutva-centric promises which have been made by Mr. Modi through the campaign. Would he be able to drop them to adjust with the wishes of the coalition partners, many of whom are expected to have problems with Hindutva-centric promises being
Now, give me an
pursued
example
by the government?
Now, give me an example.
On the other hand, if they are Sorry?
Give me an example of it.
Well, continuing with, uniform civil code. That's the first thing which comes to my mind. Assam and Uttarakhand have done it, and Mr. Modi as well as Mr. Amit Shah announced that there will be a nationwide uniform civil code in the course of the campaign.
So are we saying these issues?
This constant.
No, are we saying that?
No.
Are we saying therefore that these issues will be put on back burner, Nilanjan? Are you saying that because these are the contentious Hindutva issues will have to be put on the back burner?
I think so. It will have to. I don't think that Chandrababu Naidu would be very comfortable if these issues are on the priority areas of the government. Then there would be also tests like you have had in the last 10 years, constant action by the fringe forces, or what are called the fringe forces within the Sangh Parivar, making offensive, abusive statements, hate speeches, actually attacking, lynching the minorities, especially the Muslims, vandalizing churches. These have happened. Not much has been done by the government to ensure that any action is taken against these people, also to hold them up as examples for others who would like to behave like that. December 21, we remember that a series of hate speeches were made. Just the maximum that was said at that time, both by Mr. Modi as well as by Mr. Mohan Bhagwat, was that these things should not happen. But then what is the government doing? So will the government do something? If it does, then wouldn't the ideological fraternity get angered that he is coming on against us?
I take your point.
Anger.
So Nilanjan, you're saying these are the kind of contentious issues which will test in a way the spirit of coalition building. There are Chandrababu Naidu, Suman, during the campaign had spoken about Muslim reservations. There are, and even in my interview with Nara Lokesh, he made it very clear, we have no time for these Hindu-Muslim issues to play out in the manner that they have. Do you believe that is, again, Mr. Modi will have to somewhere change his brand? He cannot be this brand of muscular Hindutva anymore. That's over.
Yeah, I think muscular anything is probably going to be difficult, not just muscular Hindutva. Look, Rajdeep, I think I agree with everyone that nobody wants an election, and for the next 1 year at least, this government is bound to be stable. After that, we'll just have to see how it goes. The point really is that there are serious differences of opinion. The JDU says caste census, we are committed to it. It has to be done, all over the country and so on. Mr. Nitish Kumar wants that. Agniveer, they want the Agniveer scheme to be scrapped. So the government is committed to the Agniveer scheme. So and Mr. Naidu, as you rightly said, has got 4% reservation for Muslims, which they are not going to scrap. So there are issues like these, but these can potentially be managed, at least if not by, at least by kicking the can further down the road. The point is Mr. Naidu actually going to join the government? There's a talk now that he may choose to provide support from outside and have his representative as a speaker.
No, I asked him this question. I met him off camera day before yesterday. He said, yes, of course we'll have ministries. He seemed to suggest at least that they want, why should he stay out of the government? He wants the benefit for Andhra Pradesh. He wants key infrastructure ministries.
Yeah, we'll wait on that, Rajdeep, because for the simple reason that the point that was being made is that if his ministers are part of the ministry, then it becomes easier in some way for the BJP high command to quote unquote lure them. Mind you, Mr. Naidu is a much tougher nut to crack than Mr. Nitish, because Mr. Nitish Kumar has some dependence on the BJP in Bihar. Mr. Naidu is not dependent on the BJP in Andhra. There's no way that anybody is going to say that he won the victory he did only because of the alliance with the BJP. TDP plus Janasena would also have won a large victory in Andhra Pradesh.
Good
so
point.
For 5 years to come, Mr. Naidu is not dependent on the BJP, except for he's dependent on the central government for the largest to be given to Andhra Pradesh, possibly for special
Can I just therefore play one of the promises made by Chandrababu Naidu? One of his spokespersons told us, Ramon Rao, no U-turn on the 4% Muslim quota promise. This is a promise that was made during the campaign. Listen in to what was said.
4% मुस्लिम कोटा आंध्र प्रदेश में आप लोगों का बड़ा कैंपेन था इस पे, और जो जिस तरह का मैंडेट आया उससे लगता है कि सारी कम्युनिटीज ने आपको वोट डाला है। बीजेपी कहती है इस तरह के कोटा नहीं होना चाहिए, क्या आपको यू टर्न लेंगे अपने स्टांस में?
नहीं, इसमें तो कोई अभी किसी तरह का डिस्कशन नहीं हुआ और क्योंकि ये पहले भी नहीं हुआ, इलेक्शन से पहले भी हमारे जो आंध्रा का डिस्कशन था, कॉमन डिस्कशन, उसमें नहीं हुआ और अभी तक नहीं आया। तो मेरा मानना ये है कि ये शायद ना आए। हम ज़्यादा कोशिश ये डेवलपमेंट और प्रोग्रेस के ऊपर रखेंगे।
यू टर्न नहीं होगा?
यू टर्न जरूर नहीं होगा।
You know, the question therefore arises, will there be a dial down on Hindutva politics? Ashok Malik, will there be a dial down? I'll get all of you on that. Will there be a dial down, Ashok Malik?
Rajdeep, of the three, within double quotes, contentious issues of the Vajpayee era, Article 370 is part of history now. That happened 5 years ago. And Kashmir, I believe, is in a better position now, but that's besides the point. It's Article 370 is history. The Ram Mandir has been consecrated. It's a reality. That leaves us with the Uniform Civil Code, or I would say specifically a modernization of family and personal laws of all communities, and a modernization of inheritance laws across communities that is more gender equitable. I certainly think there is a case to build a consensus in the country on those issues.
But the key word you mentioned, Ashok, sorry to intervene, the key word you mentioned is consensus. The difference now is, unlike in the past where you could ram it through Parliament, reduce Parliament to a notice board.
Two things.
Now you'll have to take people along on every issue you take up.
Two things. I recognize that. Two things. The Prime Minister, while speaking today to the NDA Parliamentary Party, said that to win an election, you need a majority. But to actually run a country, you need unanimity and consensus. I think he used that word in Hindi. Okay, yes. So he is conscious of that. He was trying to signal he's conscious of that. And two, yes, it's an unfortunate reality that in any democracy, including India, when a party has a majority, it does not see value in parliamentary discussion. It's an unfortunate reality. While when you have a coalition government, you tend to see value in the parliamentary committee system. Vajpayee did, Narasimha Rao before him did. And I am sure.
So we will have finally a functioning parliament. You're suggesting your hope is, the reality is we'll have a functioning parliament where the committee system, for example, will finally start functioning.
I certainly hope that happens. And for that to happen, the government will have to reach out, but the opposition will also have to reciprocate.
You know, that's a good point because Pavan Verma, the feeling is the opposition certainly, just as Mr. Modi seemed to be this domineering figure, the feeling was a section of the opposition, particularly the Congress, never got used to the fact that Mr. Modi is Prime Minister for such a long period. So there was a feeling of non-cooperation. Will that change, or do you believe with so many numbers in Parliament, the opposition, if anything, will get even more aggressive now? They will try to gear out the Prime Minister. Already they're talking of a demand for a JPC on an alleged stock market scam.
Frankly, Rajdeep, I don't see the bitterness reducing. In fact, it's time for the opposition to say that now our voice matters. But I hope that does not happen. When Pranab Mukherjee was the leader of the House, when the UPA was in power, his Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, of State for Parliamentary Affairs, once told me that Pranab Babu told him that if I see you on the treasury side of the benches, I'm going to dismiss you. Go and establish links with the opposition. So, building a consensus is a two-way attempt, where this time the government will have to reach out to the opposition because in due course, its managed majority in Rajya Sabha after these elections will also reduce and certainly may not be dominant.
No, but will the opposition, if Mr. Modi reaches out, will the opposition be willing to reach out also? Tali do haath se bachti hai.
I think that, no, you are right. Perhaps yes and perhaps no, because for the last 10 years, the opposition has believed that it has been ridden roughshod on. Now, as against 240 odd MPs on the BJP side, there are 235 opposition MPs as well. So I don't know what will happen. Our parliament is not the best model of consensual functioning. But I know this much. The responsibility to run the house lies with the treasury benches, and therefore they will have to have far wider behind the scene consultations.
In fact, that's a good point, because one of the key ministries
were not happening earlier.
One of the key ministries being looked at is parliamentary affairs. What kind of a parliamentary affairs minister will we have? Someone who's able to reach out across the aisle or not? I just want to also play Prashant Kishor, the political strategist who worked with Mr. Modi in 2014. Rahul Kanwal and I interviewed him, and we asked, can this government last 5 years? Does he believe Mr. Modi can make the transition to being a coalition builder? Listen in to what he had to say. So you think this government will last 5 years?
No. I'm saying the crucial next step is the next 3 state elections. And the good thing about for
Maharashtra,
opposition is
Haryana, Jharkhand.
Yes. Good thing about for opposition is in those 3 states BJP is on back foot as of now.
नहीं तो उसी को एक सेकंड स्पेंड करते हैं।
एक मिनट खाली मैं ये कह रहा हूं क्योंकि देखिए पूरे रिजल्ट से हुआ क्या है, नंबर में कोई बदलाव नहीं है, सरकार उनकी बनी है, आप देखिएगा सारे की मिनिस्ट्री वगैरह सब की डिसीजन मेकिंग सब उनके हाथ में ही रहेगा, पीएमओ वुड बी ऑलमोस्ट एज स्ट्रांग एज इट वाज। बट जो मोदी की एक इनविंसिबिलिटी वाला ऑरा था उसको बड़ा धक्का लगा है, और जो ऑपोजिशन में है जो उनसे लड़ना चाह रहा है उसको एक चीज आया है कि भाई स्टेट में नहीं, मतलब लोकसभा में भी इनको हरा सकते हैं, क्योंकि अभी तक क्या था कि स्टेट में भले हार जाए, जब व्हेन इट इज ऑन द टिकट ऑफ मिस्टर मोदी एवरीवन वोट्स फॉर हिम, सो यू कैन नॉट डिफीट हिम, चैलेंज हिम इन लोकसभा। वो कॉन्फिडेंस ऑपोजिशन को आया है, वो ठीक बात है, उनको धक्का लगा है, देयर चिप्स आर डाउन। बट फॉर पीपल द हार्डकोर पॉलिटिशियंस टू एक्ट ऑन इट, दे विल नीड 1 or 2 more rounds of confirmation। आप महाराष्ट्र हार जाओ तो आप नायडू और नीतीश की बात कर रहे हैं, आई वुड रादर लुक एट एकनाथ शिंदे 7 MPs वेयर दे विल गो।
You know, there you have Sumant Raman, Prashant Kishor throwing up an intriguing prospect. The prospect that he believes Modi's invincibility is over, the aura of invincibility, and those state elections will be crucial. That's the moment when we will know whether this government will last 5 years or could well be see turmoil in 2025.
Look, Rajdeep, implicit in that statement of Prashant Kishor, if the results of the state elections go against the BJP in all the 3 states, there will also at some point start to be voices within the BJP that start speaking up. Now, all our talk is limited to the alliance partners and how they will behave and so on. But if 3 states are lost badly, particularly, if Maharashtra and Haryana are lost badly, as you know, at the moment, that's how it seems, but it's too early. But still, if that happens, there will be people who will start asking questions. There will be people in the RSS who may start asking questions. So it's very simplistic for us to say that
do you also believe brand Modi has taken a hit? Do you believe brand Modi has taken a hit?
I think that the peak of his popularity is behind him. Now, can it be resurrected? I don't believe that that's possible. But with the fact that he still remains by far the most popular leader in the country, how much longer can he string this out on the basis of his personal popularity is what I see as the challenge before him. But if they lose in the state elections badly, there will be voices within the BJP which will start to ask questions again.
Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, as someone who tracked him in those years, did you ever get a sense that Mr. Modi wants to retire from public life? There's always been this speculation. He turns 75 next year. Will he walk away into the sunset? Or do you believe that's wishful thinking of all his critics? Modi ji is going nowhere.
Very difficult to make a forecast, but the way people in his party reacted when Arvind Kejriwal threw that issue in the open and made a statement that this is actually a election being fought to make Amit Shah the Prime Minister after Mr. Modi turned 75. I do not think that there is an immediate possibility of him walking into the sunset in the 17th of September 2025. But there's one issue which I am actually very worried about. Worried in the sense that from Mr. Modi's perspective of the coalition being stable, that what does Mr. Modi do about his political vocabulary? If you look at all elections right from 2002 to 2024, each and every elections, one factor which has been behind the victory of the BJP has been Hindutva-centric issues. In elections where Mr. Modi's charismatic presence would be required, he'll have to actually win elections to be able to regain the political clout which he had, to ensure that his aura is back once again. It's his natural instinct, I'm using the word instinct once again, that to make certain statements which actually polarize the electorate. He said he did it very seamlessly even in the 2024 elections. That is what I feel, that this kind of politics, that kind of language is actually almost become his second nature. Would he be able to control that? And by controlling that, would he be able to regain the BJP's domineering presence in these states? Very rightly, Prashant Kishor pointed out that Maharashtra, Haryana and Jharkhand are problematic. In Haryana, in the region of Nu, last year, just before the G20 summit, there was a major communal polarization, started by a lot of people connected to the fraternity of the BJP, the Sangh Parivar. During the Haryana elections, would there be a similar effort? Would any of the central leaders or any of the state leaders make any polarizing statements, divisive statements? Would it be controlled by Mr. Modi so that the allies don't get upset? Mr. Naidu might get upset. Nitish Kumar also still nurtures hope of getting the support of some of the Muslims back. Would they allow that? Or, so these are actually
I'm reaching
the biggest worries.
You raise legitimate concerns. You raise legitimate concerns, but the good news is that the very fact that we are talking about this kind of coalition politics, the very fact that we are talking about consensus building, suggests just what this election verdict has done. This is an extraordinary verdict which in a way has said, yes, we want Mr. Modi to continue as Prime Minister, but a controlled Mr. Modi, a checked Mr. Modi, and we also want a strong and robust opposition. And perhaps that's the verdict that both the government and the opposition will have to accept and work upon. How they work upon it may well shape how Indian politics plays out over the next 12 months. We are in for very interesting times, I can tell you. When you move from a dominating government to a milli-juli sarkar, the very narrative, the very lexicon of Indian politics starts changing. Then you have to start being more accommodative and perhaps less authoritarian and autocratic. Think about it. Thank you all to my guests for joining me in what was, for a change, a discussion on TV without noise. And that's perhaps what we want to try and do more and more often. We in the media also need to change and accept the new reality. We are in an interval, as I call it in Indian politics. We've had 10 bruising years. Now it's time to perhaps step back and dial down. Will the Prime Minister also do so? We'll wait and see how Modi 3.0 actually governs the country. For now, stay well, stay safe. Jai Hind, Namaskar.